All right, hey everybody, welcome back. First order of business was to get a new mount for my phone. You may have already noticed the new angle. I think it looks a lot better than where we were at before, so that's exciting. Next order of business is to discuss where we're going. We're heading to another local, Run the Melee. You may have heard of the Legendary Tournament Series in the past because I actually ran it myself for a very long time, and it was a really fun tournament series to run in TO, and I definitely have there's a special place in my heart for every tournament that I've ran. So we're going to that one. I don't TO it anymore, of course. I've handed it off to the GOAT, to Randy, Foxy Littlebread. They have taken the reins and they're doing a great job. I think the tournament's been getting a fair number of entrants, which is exciting. So we'll see. I think I saw Ben was pre-regged, a few other players when I looked right before leaving. So it should be a good tournament. It's going to be kind of like at least in my mind, and this is going to be my first topic of conversation for this video, is it's sort of a pre-local to me because we've got, I would call it, I guess it's a monthly event. We have like our Minnesota monthly, but this one's like a mega Minnesota monthly is what Dendy calls it. Everybody calls it because it's meant to be like our more regional size event. Sometimes it ends up being a lot larger, sometimes it doesn't, but because we'll like get people to fly out, or sometimes people will carpool from other states. Either way, this one's shaping up to be pretty decent size. I think I saw 64 pre-reg before the day of the event, so it's cool that that'll be like the first big event I enter. I put in air quotes because a major is technically the big event to be entering, but monthlies are still decently sized. It's not a local, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is it'll be cool that this style of event is going to be the first larger event that I enter for the first time in a while. I think the last big tournament I entered was in January, and it was also a tournament from this series ran by Dendy. So yeah, cool to return to it. But so I've been trying to prepare for it, and I'd love to hear how you guys, prepare for larger events, or if you don't prepare at all, or how it compares between when you prepare to go to a super major versus a regional versus just like a weekly or whatever. Because I think they kind of all, I don't know, I feel like I prepare for them all differently, even though I think you should try to prepare for them at least close to the same. Well, maybe that's not true, because when you go to a major, right, you can kind of see your projected pool and who you're going to have to play. Of course, that rarely ends up remaining the way it's projected, and when things actually turn out. I mean, Supernova was like a perfect example of that. Like with all the people who DQ'd, you have no idea what your bracket's going to end up looking like. And I think my bracket ended up looking kind of different compared to what I was expecting. But you can still, to a certain extent, be like, okay, here are the 2 or 3 different matchups in my pool. Let me try to prepare for that. That's at least how I look at it. Depending on who you ask, some people actually don't like that. I know when I've talked to Ginger in the past, he's like, nah, I've been practicing my whole life. Like I don't need to look ahead for a pool to look at, matchups that are most likely going to change. And I suppose he's going to go through typically a larger bracket run, so it depends, the amount of the variance he's going to experience in his bracket path is much greater than, say, like me or somebody who's just trying to make it out of their pools, right? So it makes sense that he would have a different perspective, or others would have a different perspective. But the way I feel is I like to, even if I know the matchups I'm going to play. Let's say I have like a 75% chance of playing the person I'm going to play, who I'm going to play, that projection is going to happen, right? I'm going to have to play this person to make it out of pools, right? Let's say there's a 75% chance. I would still feel better, man, even if it was 50%, I would still feel better spending time preparing for that matchup, even if than not doing any sort of preparation whatsoever. I mean, of course, like, I think maybe the scary part is, like, say it's a Fox player and you're like, okay, I'm prepping for Fox. I'm doing like VOD review of not only that person, but my matchups, like my matches versus Fox players. I'm like uncle punching the Fox matchup. I'm studying blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you have to fight like Yoshi, or I don't know, just a completely different matchup. Some people might find that jarring, but I think me personally, I like that I'm in the mentality of preparing to fight at a major to make it out of a pool, right? Regardless of the matchup. So when I'm in the moment, I can say, okay, I don't have to play the Fox player, but I feel good still. Not necessarily because you know, I don't feel bad because I haven't been preparing for the new matchup I have to play. I feel good because I was mentally preparing myself to have to fight somebody to make it out of pools. That might seem kind of strange to some folks. I don't know. That's how I feel. I think it helps me to feel prepared at more than like to have prepared than not at all. But it's hard, and you should of course be like practicing the Yoshi matchup or practicing the Marth matchup or whatever regularly. You should be rotating through the matchups you should be cycling the matchups you're practicing. You shouldn't only be grinding one or two. If you're trying to like really expand your, I almost said depth, but I think you'd want to say width instead, right? Your ability to handle a variety of matchups. If your goal is to try and like get top 100 or make deep runs into regionals, majors, super majors, that sort of thing. But what I will say is for locals, like we're going to today, and this is a nice segue into, I think, how I'm going to use the local tonight. I think it's important to actually narrow your focus a little bit, especially for players who maybe your goal isn't necessarily to make it out of pools at a major, or like you could barely make it out of pools and typically you instantly lose after that, right? I think it makes a lot more sense to say, okay, in my region, here are these 2 or 3 matchups that are kind of like the ceiling for me, or like they would be the next major milestone for me to defeat or like conquer before I try to look farther out, right? Before I try to trying to break top 64 at a major or something like that. I think that's actually the correct way to go about it, and it's something that I definitely subscribed to for a long time. I mean, my region, I was like, okay, there's a bunch of really good Foxes. I've got like a couple Sheiks, and this is at the time where I was like really thinking about this. There's a couple Marths, and like those are my scary matchups that I really have to focus on, right? Like I wasn't at the time not necessarily like really studying the Falco Ditto or like really looking at like Captain Falcon, stuff like that, you know? Like of course when I lose those matchups playing online, or if I'm going to a regional or a major for something and I see that your bracket path is a little bit easier to project if you're only trying to look at like 1 or 2 matches ahead. Like, I do have to play Captain Falcon. In those situations, I would like study up a little bit more. But when my goal was like, okay, I want to make PR, or I just want to climb our local PR, that was how I guess divided my time, or how I like focused. And I think it was a pretty strong approach, if I'm being honest. Maybe that doesn't work for everybody. I would recommend it for those of you who are like, I'm trying to climb my PR, I'm trying to break into it for the first time. Who are those like 10, 9, 8 players on your power ranking who are giving you trouble? Or maybe not even those players, but like who are the players at your local that are keeping you from reaching or making the PR because you keep losing to them over and over again? Those might be matchups for you to focus on more so than others. And so that said, this local tonight, I think, obviously I said earlier Ben's going to be there. I think I saw, I can't remember who else I saw, but there are other good players going too, of course. And part of the way I prepare for, like the way I use a local is I'll either have like a specific it's a specific thing I'll be trying to work on, right? So I'll give you a few examples and then I'll tell you the thing we're using today's local for. One example might be, okay, I'm like really struggling versus the Foxes lately, and I'll say like, Lexor and Preeminent are going to this local, or they're going to a couple locals this week. Let me like really worry about them and try and think about how to beat Fox and use them for that practice. And then if I lose to anybody else or whoever, it's like a part of the cost, right? Like it's okay. It wasn't necessarily our focus. Yeah, it would suck to say like lose to Ben or even get upset by somebody. Those are really hard moments to take where you're like, oh my God, I got upset by XYZ player when I was really trying to work on another matchup, and it still itches at you. But I think it can be really smart to, I think it can be healthy to get practice dealing with those situations where you're like, I wanted to focus on Fox. it didn't go my way in another matchup, but that's okay. So that's one way. Another specific thing I might use a local for is trying to think. A specific player. So again, this is for like the people who, this is like the example I mentioned earlier where you're trying to crack your PR or something like that, or climb it. I remember there was like, I was at a point in my like career, whatever you want to call it, where I was only losing to like Preeminent Ben or Lexor, right? Or whoever it might have been at the time. And I remember like I didn't care about anybody else going into those locals. Not in the sense that I wasn't thinking, like I wasn't preparing for them, but I did tell myself like, okay, I could get upset by whoever. I'm just like solely focused on trying to beat these people. Not even the matchup, but those people, right? Like I would study their habits. I would look at our VODs from the week before that. I mean, this was like multiple occurrences of this. And I think that was, some people might not like that. It's like, well, you're not going to always face those people. Or like if you're trying to break into the top 100 or whatever, you should be trying to increase your ability versus all Fox players or all Sheik players, not just a specific one. But what I'll say to that is, I think if you can like get really deep into a matchup you're having with a particular person, you'll find things about the matchup that you wouldn't normally just looking at a variety of Foxes, right? And I think it serves as like an additional piece of, it serves as an additional skill or however you want to describe it, where you are losing to this person over and over and over, or you beat them like one time and then you're like, nice, I beat them, but then you lose the next 10 or whatever. It's like, okay, what went wrong? Going through that experience is also really healthy for you if you can handle it, right? If you're struggling with that sort of experience, and it's easier for you to say, oh man, I keep losing to Ben over and over again. Maybe I should just give up on the Sheik matchup, or not the Sheik. Maybe I should just, I'll worry about other Sheiks. Ben's unbeatable, or whoever player. It doesn't matter. I'll use Ben because for those of you who don't know, I lost to Ben like 40 times in a row or something ridiculous. I don't even remember the number before I won my first set. But I'll tell you what, I got really good versus Sheik in that period of me trying to improve at the game. And that like first time I beat Ben, it was just like, man, and it wasn't like everybody popped off for me or anything like that. And I think a few people were happy for me, which is awesome. But to me, it meant a lot, right? Because I had like this boulder I was pushing, and I finally got it over the edge, and it was awesome. And instead of treating it like I don't know, like, okay, cool, goal attained, now we can move on. It trained me to get used to loving this process of trying to win, losing, okay, what could I do better? Trying to win, losing, okay, what could I do better? Like getting that feedback loop, not only getting used to it, but enjoying it, falling in love with that process. Man, how did I get here? Something about going to locals, using locals for that. Oh yeah. Okay. So the point was, that's like an example of how you could use locals is to try and improve versus specific players. Okay. Sorry. We got all the way around. So there's that. And then my example for today, like what I'm going to try to use this local for, and this I think is this was one of my more common uses of locals last year, I would say, because I was traveling a lot more, is I would use the local to prepare for IRL competition, right? So most of you are probably, and this goes for me too, most of my Melee I play is online, right? So if you describe that process of going online to play Melee, right? It's like, okay, I get out of bed or whatever, I get home from work, I walk over to my computer, I'm like in my socks and like sweatpants or whatever, and then I just like move around a little bit and Uncle Punch on my monitor that I'm perfectly looking straight at, and is in a chair that I'm perfectly comfortable sitting in a room that has the temperature that I perfectly like playing in, and then I'm gonna queue up unranked or ranked or whatever, maybe enter a net play tournament, direct connect with somebody, anything, right? That experience, at a glance doesn't seem that different from going to a local or a regional or a major and plugging into a setup and playing Melee. But it's actually like very different. It is incredibly different. Maybe that's not for everybody, or that's not how it goes for everyone. For me, I felt like for a long time that I would go to a tournament, like I would travel to one, locals I actually got pretty cozy at because I would go to them so often. But I would go to a regional or tournament and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this room is really cold. Oh my gosh, this room is so hot. These chairs are at a weird height for me. The CRTs are like smaller or bigger, or the person next to me keeps like bumping into my chair. Or this like really annoying guy behind me keeps like chanting or like complaining about box or whatever. Anything. It could be anything. All these experiences that you never got to deal with at by playing in your home, you have to still deal with those. And like those I think are the things that like are really hard to practice for just by playing the game. And that's why I think things like locals are so important, or even going to your monthlies before you travel out of state, because if you can't handle a locals environment, you're never going to be able to handle going to a major and playing on stage, you know. And of course it's not even close to playing like that, but what I'm saying is, if I have, let's say, this monthly this weekend that I haven't competed in a monthly sized event in months, you know, over 6 months, I'm going to be a little rusty, not only in like playing Melee, but rusty in, okay, I got to make sure I eat enough and sleep enough before the tournament. Okay, I like got all my stuff in order for the day, like baby's accounted for, Shay has what she needs, we're good, house is good, all that stuff, cats are good, all of that stuff is accounted for. Like I have to worry about that. And then, okay, I have to drive to the tournament. Am I picking anybody up? Am I driving somebody? I don't know. We got to figure that out. Okay, where am I going to park at the tournament? What time do I have to get there to where I'm not there so early that like I'm going to burn out later from being so tired, or from like being at the tournament so long, but not so late that like I have no time to warm up before pools. And then like while you're at the tournament, okay, where am I going to eat in between my sets? Do I have time between pools and bracket? Where am I going to eat exactly? Because I don't want to have like my stomach get too like full of some greasy food, but I don't want to eat not enough because then I'm going to be hungry during the bracket. And that cycle just like that keeps going and going and going with so many things on tournament day. Me personally, I really struggle with stamina on tournament days, just because like tournaments typically run really late. The joke I always made is if super majors started at like 6 a.m, I would win them all. Just because I get up so early every morning and I'm just used to that, and I go to bed relatively early. So like that's something that I have to adjust for personally. And then getting good at that for like a monthly like this weekend will extend into a tournament you have to fly for. All these things I just described compound, you know, like when you're in a foreign state or country or wherever, these problems are even harder to address, right? So what I'm trying to say is I'm going to this local tonight as a sort of like, okay, let's get used to CRT. Let's get used to like being around people, testing our stamina again. You know, it's kind of like doing your homework before the test or whatever, or the quiz before the test. So that's how I'm looking at the tournament tonight. Of course, trying to win and play well and try and beat people. You know, all those things that you want to do when you compete in a tournament. But on my mind today specifically is prepping for the larger event this weekend and how I can practice for that tournament, not only with my hands, right? Not only like playing the game, playing Melee and playing Falco, but also practicing dealing with being at an event for a long time, socializing and trying to like, you know, I talked about that in the last episode or last video, whatever you want to call it, where I don't like over socialize. And that's especially true for a larger event where like, not only is the event longer, so you're going to be talking to people more, but you'll see people maybe you haven't seen before. And so you'll want to talk to them more, and that's great. But those are things you still have to manage in terms of your energy and knowing that you're going to be playing from potentially 12 to like 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock. I don't know. It depends on the tournament, right? So those are things to consider if you're trying to figure out how to prepare for tournaments. It's what's on my mind today as I go into this. I think I saw like 16 people pre-reg or something. Even as some like small, and it's relative to your scene, right? 16 is like an average tournament, I think, for us at a weekly. It's still good practice, even if it's like a smaller event like this, to warm up for this larger event we have this weekend, and that's what's on my mind. So I'm about to get to the tournament. I'll take some clips as usual of the tournament that seem to be pretty cool according to some folks. So I'll keep those included, and then I'll have a chat with you guys after the tournament. Okay. Yeah. Those videos.
gotta put like a.
No, that sounds good.
How do you put a picture?
I don't see any like at all. I go home, don't see anything.
All right, and that's the local. Dang, got upset technically, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Local was good. There was it was a smaller than like a 50-person weekly, of course, but it was still a decent size number of people. I think we had at least 16, so it's like a proper bracket. I felt pretty good warming up and stuff. I had some time to myself on a CRT beforehand, which is nice. I don't always get that. But we played TD round one, old school player. I think he's an Icy's Fox dual main, but he went Falcon versus me, and then I think he swapped to Icy's game 2. That was good. Good to see him for the first time in a while. Then round 2, we played Bobbles, the Cubstraption player. Little Fox Falco action. That was good. 2-0'd them both. And then in winter semis, we had to play... I think that's winter semis now, right? We had to play Sigma, which, to be honest, I was a little nervous for ahead of time, just because, like, the last 2 times, I'm pretty sure Sigma beat me. So I was like, uh-oh. It's been a while since we played. I haven't, like, been playing. This could go wrong. I don't know. But when we sat down, he said his controller was acting up a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay. So we played our set. I think it was a 3-0. Felt pretty comfortable, I guess. So I don't know how much his controller is impacting me, but I tried not to think about it. You know, I just try to play. You can't do anything about your opponent's controllers or stuff they have going on. So beat him. Then we played Ben in winners finals. I think he was planning to go secondaries originally, but then he swapped to go in his main, which is good. I was glad I got to play Sheik instead of secondaries. And I got 3-0'd. I don't know. I'm like still catching up, if that makes sense. Like I'm not, and I mean, I end up, spoilers, I get upset later in the tournament, so I'm like definitely still like truly catching up. But I still like feel pretty, like if you've ever played somebody much better than you, like one time I played J-Mook at Summit, and I was like, this guy is beyond me, like so far ahead of me that I can't even comprehend beginning to play the game with him. I have a lot of catching up to do before I even like consider trying to use this practice session for improvement. And maybe that's a bad perspective to have, but I remember feeling that at that time. And when I play like really good players now, having been out of the game for a while, I like feel that sort of sensation again with players that before I was like taking a break from tournaments, retired, whatever. They weren't giving me as much trouble. So anyway, that's kind of how I was feeling playing Ben. I was like, man, I still have a lot of catching up to do. Like I'm dropping easy stuff. Like occasionally I'll have some good ideas, but I'm just throwing it away, or I'm just like, I don't know. I think I like need to refigure out Sheik FD. It's I remember like having a literal Sheik FD arc where like I would look at it with coaches and like I think Squid and Ginger at separate times, and I'd be like, guys, like I don't know what the heck is going on. I thought this stage was supposed to be good for Falco versus Sheik, and it is, but you have to play it correctly. And anyway, I think I need to revisit that if I'm going to continue using it as a counter pick, or I could just not counter pick it, or I could just win every game without needing to counter. I don't know. So I have to look at those games later, but it was fine, I guess. Got knocked to losers and had to wait like a fair bit of time before we had to play in losers finals. It took a long time. There were a lot of matchups like Peach Link and stuff that you'll maybe have seen in the clips earlier that took a bit of time, but that's okay. I think and this is why this local was, you guys remember earlier I was talking about like, I wanted to use the local to prep for being IRL at tournaments, right? Like, especially for the month of this weekend. And I definitely like felt myself fading a little bit. Not necessarily, I actually felt like pretty energetic, funny enough. I ate dinner before coming to the local instead of after. Stayed hydrated, took breaks to sit down and stuff. Didn't like, I guess I chatted with people a fair bit, but not as much as I could have. So I don't know, I didn't feel too tired. I mean, this local obviously, like, the last one I went to took an hour longer than this, so it makes sense I'm not as tired now, but so I didn't necessarily like feel like my stamina was drained or anything, so that's good. But the set we ended up losing, we lost to Jim 3-1. That was, I a couple things. The first thing I'll say is I got up like I'm not that upset about it, which I actually think is a bad thing. Like when you lose, not only is it okay to be upset that you lost, I think you should be upset. Like you should not be okay with the fact that you weren't good enough in that set if your goal is trying to improve, right? And I used to like really beat myself. And there's a difference between like being like self-deprecating after you lose a set, right? And like being disappointed in yourself or like wanting more for yourself, you know? And I used to like only like if I lost a set, it was like, damn, like I gotta be better next time. And I would go home, look at the matchup, blah, blah, blah. And I just didn't have that feeling this time. And I don't know what to make of that. Like if I'm trying to improve at Melee, that's not a good sign. Maybe it's a sign of, I don't know, being able to accept losses a little bit more. Like I can still try and improve at the game without being upset about losing, I guess. It's just, it was a good motivator. I think it's generally a good motivator. So I'll have to figure out a way to, like, I don't want to pretend to be upset or anything to get myself to improve, right? But, I don't know what to make of it, I suppose. But that's just how I felt instantly after losing. I was like, okay, cool. I feel like it made sense why I lost, blah, blah, blah. And when I think back to the set, I don't know, there was like, the very first stock I played, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like the cleanest 3-0 ever. Like I just was all over him, blah, blah, blah. And then I think I got 3-stocked game 1 or something like that. And I like lost the Yoshi's game, and the Yoshi's game I won was like pretty clean. But I think I like SD'd one of my FD stocks away, maybe 2 of them at the start. I don't remember. There's at least 2 SDs throughout the set. So that didn't feel good. And then I was like making the comeback. It's last stock. I'm like, nice, here I go. I'm like kind of playing better now. And then I like flubbed some tech skill or something during invincibility, and I instantly die. I'm like, oh. So maybe that's why it didn't upset me that much. It was like clear why I had like the reasons I was losing, but those are the reasons I was losing was like that's like, for lack of a better, if I'm going to be honest with you, like I should not be losing for those reasons. Those are stupid reasons to be losing. I should be playing better in those situations, having cleaner tech skill. I don't know. I felt like I kept putting myself in situations that were just either like I didn't aggress properly, or I was like being impatient. Like I would either attack in a bad way, or not attack at all, I guess is how I could say it. I don't know how else to put it. So yeah, I know it's kind of hard to talk about the game without looking at the game, but that's how I felt after the set. It's okay. I'll hopefully watch it back later. I think it was streamed on Randy's account, so I'll have to take a look. But yeah, so either way, I think a productive local in that the goal of trying to mentally, physically prepare myself to go to the big event on Saturday. I got to work on those things before the event, so that was good. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you want to see anything else in these. I don't know. I kind of like the pre-tournament reflection, clips of the local, post-tournament reflection. Seems like a good formula. So I don't know if I'll make a video for the monthly, just because like I don't know. It's like a larger event, and there's just a lot more. I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, take care. See you later.